All right, so you're thinking about moving to Austin, Texas, or it doesn't even necessarily have to be Austin, maybe one of the outlying areas, but you're not sure where to start. You might be out of area, out of state, heck, out of country, and you know that you want to move here, but you just don't know. Guys, you found the right channel, you found the right video, and you found the right realtor. Chris Peshek here, broker associate at Peshek Properties and Dripping Springs Home Team, and today I'm trying not to get eaten by a duck. These two dudes have been following me around as I've been trying to do this video, and quite frankly, they're a little bit aggressive. Let's see if we can not get eaten. But anyway, what I'm doing in this video today is I've gone in and I've looked, I've researched, I've done as much research as I possibly could, and I tried to find the top 5 suburbs of Austin, why people are moving here, and where are they going if they're not going into Austin proper. So I didn't come up with 5, I came up with 6, and so that's what we're gonna do on the video today. Just like always, I can't make up my mind, so we're gonna go with 6. But what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna do a little bit of a map tour. I'm gonna show you around the area, this area right now with the ducks that are still following me. I'm in a little neighborhood called, actually it's a huge neighborhood called Belterra. I'm out here by the pond, that's why there's ducks here. And this is one of the areas out between Austin and Dripping Springs on the southwest side of town. Great place, great location to town, to the airport. There's more of a great location to the airport, great location to downtown. And not only that, the schools are phenomenal. So that's part of what's driving this video is why are people moving to these suburbs? Mostly they've got great schools, great locations, great industry. And I'm gonna go in and research that, show you exactly what the best neighborhoods in Austin are. I'm gonna get out of here before these ducks get after me. We'll go, oh crap. Yeah, he just pecked my foot. Guys, let's go watch this video.
All right, guys, so let's dive into this little map of Austin. And now the 6 communities are kind of spread out all the way around Austin. And when I say that I researched these and tried to find the communities or the suburbs that are the best suburbs, they've all got something a little bit going on. A little bit different going on. The ones up north are usually going to be a little bit closer to tech jobs and things like that. The ones kind of on the west are a little bit higher rated schools. And then Bastrop down there on the southeast is going to be a little bit more in that tech line also, but also location on Bastrop is going to be really big. And I'll explain all of that stuff as we go. But just to kind of level set on what we're doing here. Obviously, this is Austin proper. If you look at, city of Austin, you're kind of looking at an area, we'll call it something like that. Basically, your border on the north side, Pflugerville, Round Rock, Cedar Park, all of that. On the east side, Bastrop, Elgin, Taylor, Hutto, Manor. And then down on the south side, Kyle, Buda, San Marcos, a little further south. And on the west side, Dripping Springs, Lakeway, Lago Vista, up over here north of the lake. So that just kind of gives you an idea of Austin in general. Now, the 6 communities that we are going to talk about today, the first one is Dripping Springs. This is where my wife and I live out here on the southwest side of Austin. We're going to talk about Georgetown. Georgetown is up here on the north side, right on I-35. Georgetown is where the bypass, Loop 130, it's a toll road, comes back into I-35. That Loop 130 comes all the way around the south side of Austin and ends up going to a town called Seguin down on the east side of San Antonio. So we've got Georgetown, Wimberley, which is a small town. It's going to be the smallest one that we're talking about here southwest of Austin, about 15 minutes south of Dripping Springs. We have got Taylor, which is up here on the northeast side. And Taylor and Hutto they're not the same town. They're different school districts. Hutto's a lot bigger at this point than Taylor is, but Taylor's about to get a massive influx of people, and that's why it's one of the top suburbs. It's actually being searched a lot right now, and we'll talk about that a little bit later as to why. We also have down here on the south side, Buda. Buda is right on I-35, and if you've seen one of my other videos, I talked about how to talk like a Texan, and that is not Buda, it is Buda. And Buda and Kyle are basically sister cities right here on the south side, Kyle being right here. So when I'm talking about Buda, I may as well be talking about Kyle also. Even though they're different cities, they have the same school district, and really they're kind of one in the same. Don't tell anybody from Kyle or Buda I said that, because they would argue with me. But anyway, those are on the south side of town. And then we are going to talk about Bastrop over here on the southeast side of town as our other top suburb. Now, a couple of the ones that they just didn't make the cut for whatever reason, guys. And realistically, it's just because they're not as popular, because there's not really as many new houses and stuff being built right now. You know, the ones that are pretty popular for resale homes, Cedar Park, Leander over here, you know, Round Rock's got some things going on, but I left those out of this. I wanted to keep it a little bit shorter, so I'm going to focus on these other 6 today. All right, now as we jump into this, I'm going to do a couple of different things here. I'm going to pop back and forth between some different demographic information. So let's start off talking about Dripping Springs, Texas. Oh, I guess I need to go ahead and delete all of those things. Okay, let's start talking about Dripping Springs. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to talk a little bit about demographics. The population information that I've got access to is from 2020, so it's almost 4 years old at this point. So population data, all of this data is going to be a little bit old, and all of these areas have grown. So let's start out with Dripping Springs. Population of about 5,000 people. Guys, that is just in the Dripping Springs city limits, which is like right here, that little bitty area right there. But the Dripping Springs area actually encompasses a lot larger area out here to Henley, up close to Bee Cave, in close to Cedar Valley, down Driftwood area. So there are a lot more people in that area. 5,000 is just that city center on that. A couple of things we're going to talk about here, and I'm going to go through this on all of them. Poverty rate, pretty low, 4.9. Median household income, about 88,000. Keep in mind, this is about 4 years old. That number has gone up. And you can see they're saying 1 year growth. It was about almost 10% growth. And property value there, we're going to take a look at a different metric for that right now. So in terms of, this is the most up-to-date data that we've got. This is in June 2023. So I just want to talk a little bit about the housing market in Dripping Springs. We are down about 20% year over year in Dripping Springs as a whole, sitting right at 703,000. Now you can see, I love showing this graph because you can see, and this starts about 2015, you can see we've had slow, steady growth, and all of a sudden COVID happened. And this is going to be a similar graph to everything. But if you would continue this growth line forward, you can tell that our values are still higher above that steady growth. So even though we've dropped 20% year over year, this was that high, and this was that low down in January of this year. We're still, and this is really similar for the whole area, the values are still up on kind of that historical trend. So that's something to talk about. But right now, July 21st, 2023, we're down on closed sales, and active listings are up, which is interesting. We've got a little bit more inventory here than what some of the other places that I'm going to be talking about having, and our inventory is pretty high. We're close to 6 months of inventory, so there are deals being made in Dripping Springs right now. Not really going to go into that a lot on this video, but just kind of giving you an idea of what's happening in Dripping Springs. Normal days on the market now is about 2 months, and days to close is about 60 as well. So total days from listing to closing, roughly about 120. All right, so let's pop into, just to remind you, that's Dripping Springs down here. All right, now let's talk about Georgetown as the number 2 of my top 6 suburbs. So Georgetown up here on the north side of town. And when you start talking about the north side of town, the things that start becoming popular for people are, pop over to this map real quick. This corridor right in here, kind of between Pflugerville on the north side of Austin, it's most people don't refer to the whole thing as a tech corridor. I tend to, because you're really starting over here on 183 and on Mopac. You've got National Instruments, large tech company. You've got Apple out here. You've got Dell out over here. So this entire North Austin area is kind of a tech hub, and that's what drives a lot of the growth out here. We've got a lot of tech companies coming to town. We'll talk about that in a little bit, but that's kind of what this north area is known for. Now, popping over to this other map again, that area I was just showing you is right here. Georgetown is just a little bit north of that. Now, Georgetown, it's it was a small town. It's growing very, very fast. Got a cool little downtown area in Georgetown, and a lot of the houses, built kind of, I don't want to call them mid-century homes, but, built between the 50s and the 90s. A lot of houses in there in that time frame. Now, we've also had a lot of growth on the outskirts of Georgetown now, and there's new subdivisions that are popping up. So a lot of new construction there as well. But let's take a look at demographic information. So 75,000, much larger than Dripping Springs, but again, that the city limits up there, and I can get into city limits in Dripping Springs at another time, but the city limits of Georgetown are much, much larger, and it's a larger area overall. There's a couple of high schools up there now, large high schools. I think they're both 6A at this point, so very, very large population up there. A little bit higher on the poverty rate, closer to 7. Median household income's a little bit lower at 77, and let's go ahead and jump in and take a look at what that market looks like. So a little bit cheaper. And you're going to find that overall on the north side of Austin, south side of Austin, and on the east side of Austin, you typically are going to have a little bit lower barrier of entry for cost of home. So median price up in Georgetown's $455. They are down about 15% also. And again, we talk about that trend. Same thing, and this is all over Austin. You've got that slow, steady trend, growing. We did have a drop, but again, way over where our values were pre-COVID. Now, this is the, closings are down, active listings are up here as well, but months of inventory are a lot lower. Now, if you remember back to this Dripping Springs screen, we only had 355 active listings and 6 months of inventory. Okay, over here in Georgetown, 644 active listings, again, a larger area, but only 3.4 months of inventory. So that tells you that the houses are selling a lot faster up in Georgetown than out in Dripping Springs. 3 months of inventory, still considered a little bit of a seller's market. I know that right now, July 2023, there are still some multiple offers going on up in that area, even at our higher interest rates. So it's just interesting to see that little bit different market up there. Days on market still pretty high, 72, a little bit shorter time to close, but again, total days from listing to closing, very similar to Dripping Springs. Okay, let's pop to the third of my top 6 suburbs, Wimberley, Texas. Now, I'll remind you again, Wimberley is the most remote out of all of the ones that I'm talking about. Wimberley is about 45 minutes from downtown Austin, maybe even a little bit more now, maybe closer to 50 minutes. Wimberley is the smallest town that we're going to talk about. Dripping Springs, again, even though they have a little bitty town center, the population, Dripping Springs is a much smaller town. The high school there is a 4A Texas classification. Dripping Springs has a 6A high school growing very quickly. They're in talks to find out when they're going to build the next high school. So that tells you there's a large difference in the number of people between Wimberley and Dripping Springs. Now, Wimberley is a really cool place. Back in the 70s, this was an artist community. Nobody really knew it was there. It's just kind of this little hidden hole in the wall spot between Dripping Springs on the way to San Marcos. You can see Ranch Road 12 kind of connects the two. And what people have found out about Wimberley is that Wimberley's got really, really good schools, and it's a slower pace of life, and you can find a little bit bigger property down there. So when COVID happened and people were able to telecommute, didn't have to go into the office, we saw a pretty big boom of growth down in Wimberley. So demographic-wise, town population's a little bit smaller. Now, this is more accurate, about 3,100 people than Dripping Springs. Again, pretty low poverty rate. That's kind of the area overall, especially kind of when you start talking about the hill country, west of 35, whether that's, down to San Antonio or up to Dallas, generally on the west side of 35, a little bit lower poverty rate. And median household income, though, is still a little bit lower than Georgetown yet, about $10,000 lower than Georgetown. So it's not necessarily a high income area. I can tell you that this number is coming up because I've seen the houses that are selling out in Wimberley. This number is going to be up on the next census. There is no doubt. Now, taking a look at that market in Wimberley. Now, here's the crazy thing. Georgetown, a lot bigger city, a lot more amenities and shopping and closer to downtown Austin and all that other stuff. It's harder to get into Wimberley. Median price point is over $500,000. Again, they are down. This is a little bit of a trend bucker here. Closed sales are up for 2023 over last year. Active listings are also up, months of inventories up as well. But the thing that stands out here is that those closed sales are up, and months of inventory is still lower than what Dripping Springs is showing. So very interesting, being that they're only 15 minutes apart. Days on market, again, everything is very similar. 77 average days, a little faster down there, days to close. There are a few more cash transactions that are happening in Wimberley, so just kind of gives you an idea that is closing a little bit faster. But again, total days from list to closing, still, right around that 110 to 120 range. All right, now number 4 on this list, and this is where I'm going to start diving in a little bit more on the reason that people are moving to places. Okay, Taylor, Texas. A reminder on where Taylor is. We're going to be up here on the north side of Austin. It's pretty removed out here, right? Like it's a far way out there. Taylor is let me rephrase that. Taylor has been known to be a farming community. On this side of Austin, I mean, you can go all the way up to Waco and all the way down to San Antonio. This is farmland over here. A lot of black gumbo, a lot of sand. And flatter land than on the west side of Austin. This is where the hills are. This is where it's a little bit flatter. It's a lot easier to farm over here. There's a lot less rocks. So this whole area out here is historically farmland. But Taylor's about to get its big boy pants on. If you have heard of a little company called Samsung is building a massive, sorry, I can't think of the name of it, a production plant over here just south of Taylor. It started a couple years ago. From what I understand, they are working 24/7 on this thing, and they're not even done with the first part, and they're already planning and starting construction on their second part that's going to effectively double the size and double the production. I've been told from people that are working on that project that the plan by Samsung is to create their own city. They're going to put for all of their workers. They're going to start putting in subdivisions down there, and everywhere else out here is already building subdivisions for this thing. Taylor's got new subdivisions going in. Hutto's got new subdivisions going in. There's new subdivisions going in down here in Elgin, Manor, and Copeland. So this whole area is going to be full of housing to satisfy the demand for workers for Samsung and all the subsidiary businesses that are coming there as well. But Samsung is planning on building restaurant space, commercial space, movie theater, stuff like that. They are going to have a one location, one-stop shop for all of their employees right here south of Taylor, Texas, which up until this point, again, was a cornfield. That is what's driving Taylor. That's why Taylor is on this list of the top suburbs around Austin. It's fascinating to watch how fast it's growing, how quickly people out there are pivoting from farmland to putting in commercial development and residential development, apartments and everything else. It's growing very, very quickly. Let's take a look at the demographics real quick. Taylor, for a city, 17,000 is the population. That's still a little bit smaller than what Dripping Springs is as a whole, even though the population is showing high. Notice a little bit higher poverty rate. Again, this was a farming community, so you're going to have a little bit more of a poverty rate out there. Median income is lower still by another factor of about 10,000 below Wimberley, about 57,000. And that's going to affect the market, the real estate market. So median price point lower than Georgetown. Okay, 320,000 and dropping like everything else out here is. But again, we saw that big spike just like everywhere else in Central Texas over the last 3 years. Closed sales down, active listings are up. Again, that's normal for us right now, but months of inventory out there is still pretty low. Now, the reason that months of inventory is lower is because we just don't have as many listings. We've 65 listings as opposed to 300 or 400 or 500. So the number of listings is down, so that's keeping that months of inventory down. Days on the market, days to close. This is all moving very quickly, and a lot of that has to do with the fact that there's a lot of new construction going on out there. So the builders are building their new construction. They're trying to get caught up from last year, and so these properties, from when they're listed, they're going under contract very quickly and closing within 30 days. That's why you're seeing that lower total days from listing to close time on there. So Taylor, Texas, keep an eye out on Taylor, because again, it is going to grow very fast thanks to Samsung. And that's a good time to kind of remind people, guys. Austin used to be this weird little quirky place, right? I mean, it was a major metropolitan area, but overall, it didn't grow as fast as San Antonio or Dallas or Houston. But we saw a tech boom here in the late 80s. And now we're seeing another resurgence over probably the last 5 or 6 years. Austin's that cool place to live for tech companies, especially. Got a lot of people moving here from California, a lot of tech companies moving here from California, and Austin is the closest thing to the California lifestyle that Texas offers. I mean, you can argue that there's some of it up in Dallas, Fort Worth, but for the tech companies, they understand that the people that work for them, if they're going to move out of California, out of Arizona, off of the East Coast, New Jersey, New York, if any of those tech companies are going to be coming down here, Austin is the place that they want their employees to go, because that's the employees are more willing to come to Austin because of its reputation as a cool, hip place. And those tech companies are coming. Now, I just told you about Samsung up here. The last one that we talk about is going to be Bastrop, so make sure you hang out for that, because there's a lot of stuff going on between Bastrop and Austin. But for right now, our 5th top suburb of Austin is Buda, Texas, down here. And again, because it's so close, Kyle, Texas as well. So a lot of times people will refer to this as Kyle Buda. It is one independent school district, the Hayes Consolidated ISD, 2 high schools there. Let's go ahead and jump into demographics here on Buda. So Buda by itself, 16,484 people. If you throw Kyle into there, and I'll go ahead and search for it real quick just so we know. Kyle, it's another 45,000. So Buda is kind of like the little brother, but I just think Kyle has a larger city limits, because that's what this is looking at. Buda, between Buda and Austin, everything that's outside of the Austin ISD, Austin city limits, is growing really, really quickly right now. So this number is very low. So, but you're looking, let's just call it 65, 70,000 people in the Kyle Buda area. Again, poverty rate, pretty low there. Average income, or median income, this is really high, guys. 84,000. It's just a little bit lower than Dripping Springs was. When I saw that, I was actually a little bit shocked. I did not think that was the median income in Buda. And the thing that's really interesting about that, with that being the median income, Buda actually has a lower barrier to entry, lower cost of entry, 380,000. Remember back over here when we were talking about Dripping Springs, 703,000 at median. But again, Buda, 380,000. A lot of people are choosing, and people making good money are choosing to move to an area that they can buy cheaper housing, that they can afford, to go out and do more things. There's a lot of stuff to do in Austin, right? A lot of stuff to do in Texas and in the Hill Country, and people like to vacation too. So there's a lot of people that are choosing to move down into Kyle and Buda, so that they can just spend less money on housing. Don't necessarily blame them. Still the same thing. We're down year over year for price and sales. Active listings are up, and that's up a lot. There's a lot of houses in the Kyle Buda area. One of the things that is driving that, though, is new home inventory. So new home builders down there, especially subdivisions like Six Creeks and Sunridge and stuff like that. There's a lot of new home inventory right now. So that's one of the things driving that. But curiously enough, months of inventory is still fairly low. We're still below 4 there. So again, right on that border between, balanced market and seller's market. This is really just like most of the other ones, days on market, total days, again, right in that 120 range. So, the reason I bring this up, guys, at this point is to just let you know, our market is not doing what it was for the last few years. You have the opportunity to come in, shop, find something that you really like. You don't necessarily have to rush and be in a hurry to do that. That's the reason I'm pointing this out. But that is that Kyle Buda area. Again, Hayes Consolidated ISD. One of the good things about Buda, and the reason people like it so much, is because it is so close to downtown Austin. You've got a straight shot on 35. You could come in here, take the 45 to 130 loop if you need to get to the north side of Austin. I've got a client that just bought in Buda, and she works. It's right here. I want to say it's Round Rock, if I remember correctly, which is right in this area here. And I think her commute from down on the south side from Buda around to Round Rock is about 45 minutes in the morning. So, you know, you can still, that's one of the cool things about Austin. It's still small enough that you can get to the other side of town technically in less than an hour, as long as you're not in the worst of traffic and as long as you've got options like taking the toll road around. But you know, Austin, for as fast as it's growing, it's still a pretty small area. You can get, and I still show properties in North Austin. If I was, you know, if I lived on the south side of Houston, I would not drive to the Woodlands to show properties because it would take me 2.5 hours to get there. But in Austin, 45 minutes, hour, I can be on the north side. So again, that's Buda. One of the great things about this too, in addition to being close to Austin, is it's also close to the airport, which is right over here. So you're only anywhere in Buda, you're less than 30 minutes to the airport. Really easy to get there, and probably faster if you take the bypass around and then come through Del Valley. So very easy to get around from that area. That's one of the reasons it's so popular. But all right, we are to our last one. And guys, if you're still with me, this is content that's interesting to you. So remember to like and subscribe, because this is the kind of stuff I do. I bring you a little bit of insight that other people are not bringing you. Just letting you know that there are realtors out there who really, really do understand the area and what's going on, where the growth is, and why people are moving there. So make sure you like and subscribe, bringing you content like this 3 times a week. So to put a lot of time and effort into these videos for you guys. Now, the last community, the last of my top 6 suburbs of Austin is Bastrop. It's right out here on the east side of Austin. Bastrop's been around for a long time, right on the Colorado River. There's a lot of cool stuff to do there. If you like, you know, maybe you like to be on town lake down here on paddle boards and canoes and kayaks and stuff like that, but you don't want to live in Austin, or you can't live in Austin, Bastrop's got a great part of the river down here, guys. Now it does, you know, when we get a lot of rain, it does flood, so it's a little harder to get in there all the time. But kayaking, canoeing, fishing, doing all the stuff on the river right here in Bastrop. They got a great little thing called the River Walk. There's some shops and stuff. Got a really nice little brewery scene started up down there as well. And there is a lot of new construction going on between Bastrop, between like the downtown area and Austin. Got the Colony in here, several Pecan Ridge, I believe it's called, is another one down there that's new. There's several of them that are planned along this stretch of 71. And the reason all of that is happening is right here. Okay, this area, oh, sorry, I was wrong. It's right here. This area right here is where Tesla's Gigafactory went in. This is where they're building the battery banks. This is where they're building the trucks, or they're going to build the trucks. I don't think they've started yet. And this is very similar to Samsung. They started this construction, and before they were done with the first phases of it, they were already planning and starting their next construction phases, because basically they were at capacity already, and they needed to expand even before they thought they did, before they would. Now, Tesla is right here. This is the airport again that I was mentioning. So Tesla is right there. Bastrop is here. They're doing a lot of work on 71, also putting in overpasses and stuff. 71 is going to be a really nice straight shot into the airport into Austin before long. After they finish these next few overpasses right here, there's only going to be, I think, 2 or 3 stoplights between Bastrop and Austin, and those are next on the plan to get overpasses. So they're turning 71 into a freeway right into downtown Austin. So even if you're living out here in the Colony, you really don't have about 35 minutes to the airport maybe, and another 15 minutes to downtown Austin. So that's one of the reasons that's growing so fast. And again, Tesla's here, so there's a lot of Tesla workers that are working out here. If you've heard me talk about other subsidiary companies that are coming in, when you have a giant manufacturer like Tesla come in, there's a lot of smaller tech companies that come in and try to get their business. The same thing's going to happen in North Austin with Samsung. It's happened with National Instruments. It's happened with Apple. It's happened with Dell, AMD, all of them. So anytime there's smaller companies trying to get those larger contracts from the big companies, those companies are bringing all of their people in, and that's just driving the growth even more. So you've got Tesla here. You also now, Elon has moved the Boring Company That is somewhere out in this area just south of Weberville. I have not been to the site yet, but again, the boring company, which is the giant tunnel boring machine, they're moving out here, and I've been told they're working 24/7, again, just like Samsung, trying to get that open. So the boring company is coming, and then he's also acquired some land for SpaceX somewhere in this same area. My understanding of that is that it's going to be more office buildings and things like that, but Elon is moving basically his 3 main companies right here on the southeast side of Austin, between Bastrop and the Austin International Airport. So that is what's driving that Bastrop growth. And okay, like I mentioned before, guys, if this is the kind of content you're looking for, make sure you're liking and subscribing, and feel free to reach out. If you've got questions, you don't quite know where you're going, that's what I'm here for. You may be able to tell me, hey, my company's moving to Round Rock. It looks like I'm going to be able to afford about $400,000. What are what would be your top locations to pick for that? Or, hey, my company's trying to get some of that Tesla money. This is my budget. Where do I need to be looking? Those are the kinds of questions I get every day. Those are the questions I love answering, that educational type question. And again, when you've been in Austin since '99, like I have, when you've been in real estate since 2011, that experience is something I need to share with people. I want to share, because it doesn't do me any good if I don't get it out there in front of you. But that is it, guys. We will see you on the next video. Y'all have a great day.